All right, thanks for staying with us. Let's get into our next discussion now. Senators have described as unrealistic some fiscal projections of the 2018 national budget and want federal government and federal agencies to be reduced, as public finances spent on them remains unjustified.
Yes, and they made these arguments during debates on the general principles of the document. And TVC News National Assembly correspondent Somna Sambo reports.
Senators at the commencement of debate on the general principles of the 8.6 trillion naira budget say the federal government runs the risk of not meeting the expectations of Nigerians in 2018. The federal lawmakers kicked against key assumptions of the 2018 budget in areas like exchange rate, deficit, oil benchmark price, and further argued that the government can do away with 50% of the non-recurrent expenditure.
The assumptions are totally wrong and totally off the mark, and therefore 2018 is already dead on arrival. What was done in 2017 when less than 15% of that budget was released? Nothing was done.
I wonder if Mr. President is having a second view of looking at the budget that is presented to him by the civil servants.
When you consider the fact that the non-oil revenue for 2017 fell by 74%, and now we are predicating the 2018 budget on mostly on the non-oil revenue, it means we are facing danger.
Only 500 million has been released so far from a budget of 11.4 billion. I think we have to look more into how we can assist the Ministry of Finance.
When the federal government...
Senators also want a reduction in government departments, especially those that are no longer productive. They resolve that agencies which are commercial in nature should no more be funded by the public treasury.
What is the value of the National Orientation Agency in today's world, for instance? Yet billions of naira are spent in that agency. I mean, we're not talking of rocket science. Let us look at the budget. Let us look at agencies that make no sense. FRCN, sell it to the staff. Sell it to them. Sell NTA to the staff. Voice of Nigeria. Who listens to Voice of Nigeria? Does anybody listen to Voice of Nigeria? Sell it. If the staff want to buy it, let them buy it.
And I believe that if the government fails, neglect, or refuse to remove those agencies from our budget, we'll have a responsibility to Nigerians to bring bills here in order to repeal the law setting up those agencies.
The budget debate continues on Wednesday, where senators are expected to contribute on several issues, especially the revenue projections and parameters of the 2018 national budget. Somna Sambo, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, this debate doesn't seem to have gone off on a good
start. It's just starting, and there can be intrigues, there can be dimensions into it. So we wait to see how things are going to play out.
Yes, indeed.
But that sets the tone as to how things are. But it makes it more interesting, I must say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, at the end of the day, what is good for Nigerians is what we hope they can achieve eventually. Well, Wale Oshunde is here with us in the studio. He's a public affairs analyst, and of course, he understands these numbers. Okay, so how would you respond to what the senators have been saying, generally about the 2018 budget? In their own words, they're saying, look, this assumptions are totally fictitious and, unrealistic.
Well, for me, I'm totally disappointed in all of them. And I tell you why, yes. You see, we should be discussing important national issues and how to ensure that we do not commit the same mistakes again. Now, what is the fundamental mistake that has been committed here? A budget that you presented to the House or that you passed, in July or August of the year, and you're expecting that same budget to be fantastic. I don't think anything good can come out of that. Now, the problem is that we do not have a time frame within which the president is expected to actually lay the budget before the National Assembly in the Constitution. The Constitution has not mandated the president to present the budget at XYZ time. And so it means that any president can wake up any day and then believe that, okay, 2018 budget would even be presented to the House in July 2018. Now, there is a president that is now saying, excuse me, let us do what he's saying, let us do what I think is right, let us do January to December. Because even in our constitution, there is nothing that determines the financial year. And that is a major problem. So I expect that the National Assembly would alter the provisions of the constitution to mandate the president to present the budget at a particular time.
Are you saying there's nothing in the laws that actually states that or stipulates that the budget cycle, which Buhari hopes to achieve, should be between January and December?
Nothing like that. I've read through the entire constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And it doesn't.
And yes, there is no place where the constitution has stated that the president must do this at this particular time. Instead, what we have is just that the president shall cause to be prepared and lay a budget before the National Assembly. And I do not think that is sufficient. That is exactly the reason we are actually having all these ulabalu, we are going back and forth. But, I mean, so how do you explain the fact that the 2017 budget was actually presented to the House, in 2017, and then they had to debate and debate and debate and debate till almost half of the year was gone. And we're expecting that same budget to be executed.
Yeah, but so some Nigerians are going to say, well, that is just a matter of process. The real thing, as far as Nigerians are concerned, from what we hear them say sometimes, is that the actual implementation, the execution, which is the main thing, which is the crux of what the matter here, because that is what translates into prosperity or not for Nigerians. If a budget has been passed, whether it was passed on the 31st of December in fact, maybe it's passed about 6 months late or 10 months late, Nigerians, all they want to see is let this budget work for us.
Fantastic.
So the concept of the process on how the timing, will Nigerians be too concerned about that to the detriment of the implementation of the budget?
It is true, Nigerians cannot be exactly bothered about timing and what have you, but we cannot take away the fact that, I mean, this is a very vibrant issue that actually determines, the performance of the budget. Like the way we are going now, I do not think that this budget will be passed this year for us to start implementing, and then reaping the fruits of this budget by January 2018. I do not see that happening. And so, if we are not careful, what we are likely to have is a situation where that budget is not passed until maybe March, or let's just say first quarter 2018. And then, how do we now expect that the performance of such a budget will be total and complete and accurate?
So are we going to be consolidating on the failure of the 2017 budget? Is that what we're likely to have? Or what kind of miracles should we expect? Look, the senators are recommending, let's even look at what they're saying, that some of the benchmarks, like the crude oil benchmark of $45 per barrel, should be jacked up to about 50. Since the global oil market is doing well,
but there are
and of course the exchange rate.
From what we're hearing from the OPEC, there might be a cap on Nigeria's output, as the case may be.
that's looking very, very likely.
You see, what I just expect them to do at this point in time, if we are really serious about passing this budget, and if we are serious about national development, is to call people from the budget office, the Minister of Finance, I mean, all the people associated with the computations that has made up this budget.
Yeah, they've always been part of it.
No, what I mean is call them right now. If you are raising all these assumptions and all these allegations and what have you, call them right now to this round table.
How did you come up with these figures?
Absolutely, and that's it. And we move forward. But, coming back and forth, we take 2 steps ahead and then we still take 5 steps backward. It will not help us.
Yes, from the reports we got, the Senate raised some concerns where the CBN governor, the GMD of NNPC, the Director General of DPR, these are agencies that control the finances and financing of the budget. And they were all invited to the Senate to say, okay, come and make us understand how these parameters are going to work. They didn't show up.
Then the Senate has that power to mandate them to show up. I mean, we cannot continue to say that, you see, they have that constitutional power to summon anybody. Summon anybody. I mean, and then if they are not showing up, what happens to your power to issue sanctions, to issue warrants, to even arrest them, as a matter of fact? And then what stops you from advising the president to even sack them, to fire them? I mean, we cannot continue to say that because they have not showed up, and then we would not do that. Which
that
is right.
seems to be the ideal situation, but
yes.
in reality, it's
real
not.
terms.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's just not the case.
Otherwise.
I'm sorry, I beg to disagree. That is actually our problem in this country.
Yeah.
Why should we say something is right, but we cannot afford to do it? There is no right way of doing that, which is wrong. Absolutely. I mean, we must take the bull by the horn, and then the president must. You see, all our leaders must be held accountable. They must know right now that Nigerians are actually not going to take excuses for an answer. And that's exactly what all of us in this country must be saying at this point in time. Well,
maybe it's a reflection of the fact that there doesn't seem to be, that level of confidence that should be in the National Assembly, for example. You know, there have been too many cases of, government officials, just waving off the Senate and saying, look, I'm not even going to bother about showing up before them. And like they say, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Yes. Right?
Yes.
So how?
so they don't think those inviting them have the moral standing.
So that seems to be playing out with all of this, that we're seeing. So now, how realistic is the 2 trillion naira expected from oil revenue and 4 trillion from non-oil revenue? Let's come to the basics. That's the real issue here. Because that is what the National Assembly, at least the Senate, is saying, that these numbers are totally unrealistic. How are you going to make these monies that you're expecting?
Well, I think that for the oil revenue,
yes.
The 2 trillion that we are thinking about, well, it is... I do not know how they really want to actually make that happen, but I think it is achievable if only, the oil prices, are jacked up and all that before, the end of that year. That is one. But you see, for the non-oil revenue, I am really, really sorry. I do not think that is achievable. Well, now we'll be thinking about agriculture. We'll be thinking, what are we exporting, by the way? These are the questions that...
Yam.
And then we expect to sell yam of 4 trillion in 2018. That would not happen. Where are we growing the yams? I mean, these are fundamental issues that nobody is actually answering. You see, we are thinking about agriculture. How much money have we pumped into that sector? How much money have we pumped into, entrepreneurs who actually wants to start up farming and all that and all stuff? All we see is government talking about policies, plans, dreams that are not real and all that. And then they have not even started most of all of these things. And then even those ones that they have started, you find out that a particular set of people or a crop of people are, actually cornering all these monies and all that. And you see, you find that happening every time and everywhere, and nothing is actually being done. Nobody is being brought to. You see, that's why a lot of people are actually losing confidence, by the way, in this administration.
All motion and no movement?
That is it. We want to fight corruption. We want to do this. Former SGF, he's not been charged to court, and then you went the other day, you burgled judges' homes and all that, and nothing has been done to executive members who are found wanting. I think that's really wrong.
All right, we read on the papers earlier, on the Nation newspaper is here, it's on some of the papers. Budget 2018 at risk as OPEC mulls capping Nigeria's output at 1.8 million barrels per day. Now
that's way below the 2.2
exactly. That's way below the 2.2. Now, if this happens, it's going to affect how things are going to be. Nigeria and Libya have had holiday all the while. Well, you can do what you want for now until we decide to come up on you. Would there be the need for Nigeria to start lobbying in the OPEC, for instance?
Shouldn't that OPEC meeting be today or tomorrow?
Yeah,
today?
Sometimes soon, I wouldn't know.
That is what we should be doing every time.
How likely is that?
No, that is what we should be doing every time. I mean, countries who are serious about national development do this every time. The US, China, they negotiate every time. And then all we do is to go to OPEC and then we sit down and then we just present one paper or, one speech fantastically prepared by some speech writers, and then we do nothing at the end of the day. That would not move us anywhere. It will not do us any good. And then we need to really start talking to our allies. Who are our allies, for example? Where are we exporting anything to? Instead, we are just at the receiving end. And these guys will come to us, talk to us, calmly, wonderfully, and then they show us some wonderful flags, and then we think that, yes, things will be fine and all that. And then look at China, for example. They are taking the whole of Africa. I saw a cartoon 2 days ago when the Ghanaian president, the Nigerian president, and the Senegalese president, they were all, you know, at a table, and then the Chinese president was carrying the map of Africa.
What do you expect?
And was running away.
The AU headquarters was donated by the Chinese.
Magnificent edifice.
Fantastic, yes,
say.
really. All right, let's put you on hold, Wale Oshunde, and we'll bring you the news update. Ugochi Oluibo is standing by to do just that. And when we come back, of course, the discussion continues. Yeah.
Right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. And we are talking about the budget for 2018 in Nigeria, where the Senate is raising concerns as to the feasibility of the ability to implement or execute the 2018 budget based on the projections that the president has put forward.
Yes.
And we're discussing this with Wale Oshunde. He's an analyst, and we've been talking about this. Now, in the report we played earlier at the beginning of the report, we saw Senator Ben Bruce from Bayelsa State mentioning some what he called moribund government agencies that year after year monies go into it. He mentioned the National Orientation Agency, he mentioned the FRCN, he mentioned the Voice of Nigeria. When it comes to FRCN, I guess there are so many FM stations here and there, but for National Orientation Agency, Nigerians have complained we don't feel the impact of this agency. They're supposed to be orienting and reorienting Nigerians and all of that. Would you be on the same page with Senator Bruce on the issue of, you know, activating on how to repeal the laws that set up some of these agencies?
Absolutely, but for the Federal Radio Corporation Service
of Nigeria,
exactly, I think that one should actually be
to be left alone.
Exactly, you know.
With 8,000 staff, 8,000 staff.
Maybe we need to jack down on the number of people that, you know, are working in some of these agencies. You cannot take away the fact that some of these appointments are even politically motivated and what have you. People help, you know, there are people and all that. And then you would even find some lawmakers, so should I say some politicians, they would even take the names of those people that are just being absorbed into those organizations. They take the names to their constituencies and then show the old people and then display their letters of appointment.
As jobs provided?
You know, that kind of, I've just helped 10 people see their names, see their letters and all that. And
so they can get votes the next time.
Yes, but for the Voice of Nigeria, I mean, I'd never listened to that station myself, you know, and I do not think that we need such repetitions. We just, I mean, why do we need Voice of Nigeria again? When you already have
this is really not even about Voice of Nigeria or FRCN for that matter. What Ben Bruce and his colleagues are saying is that, look, there's so many government agencies that are, you know, more or less totally, what's the best word to use?
Unnecessary duplicity.
Ineffective.
Thank you.
A lot of them,
you know, but that's still
like on
government's payroll, and it's such, you know, a lot of waste going into all of that. And I recall only recently the Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, actually did, you know, talk about the overbloated nature of government at all levels. That if you know, some of these were trimmed, a lot of the funds that go into, you know, are being wasted. Could provide good health, education, and the rest of them for Nigerians.
No, that's very correct. It's only unfortunate that our leaders, you see, we know the right things to do, but I just do not understand why we are not doing all these things. I don't just get it. That's the unfortunate side to it, because this country should be better than this.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have wonderful hospitals and what. I was told about a story, you know, whereby in the early 90s, people come from Ghana, from, you know, all walks of life to seek medical tourism in Nigeria. I mean, I can't even believe it. But see what we're doing now. We're the ones now traveling to Dubai.
Everywhere.
Traveling to, I mean,
and
it's
to
unfortunate.
India.
Traveling to Ghana. So, I mean, I even had somebody traveling to Ghana the other day, you know, and I just couldn't put it together. So I do not know why our leaders like this. I mean, they are well-traveled. They know what is actually obtainable in sane climes. And they are not just doing that, which is right in Nigeria.
In fact,
something is wrong with us fundamentally.
You know, a governor was just telling us the other day how, as a farmer, his own father provided better life and living standard for him.
Exactly.
But for him as a commissioner could not even provide same for his children.
At his own time. So comparing life, you know, in the early 70s, in the early 60s, to what life is right now, everything has depreciated. Now, but let's get into the issue of the budget and the party that owns the government. Now, the APC owns this government, and they have majority in both.
Does the APC own the government or run the government?
No, they own the government.
Okay.
A political party owned the government for the time.
Yeah.
PDP owned the government while they were there. So it is the government that wins the election, that owns the government for the time. So they have the majority at the National Assembly. And we expect that. I know they are working as to, are Nigerians really happy with what is going on and all of that? Now, if you listen to the debate at the floor of the Senate, from what we got, it seemed like there are discordant tunes here and there. Should the political party go back and really sit down and say, okay, I think government, president, National Assembly, you guys have to get it right when it comes to this budget, because that is the instrument that translates into the prosperity for Nigerians by the government.
Yeah. Well, I think that needs to happen, or should I say that should have been happening.
Okay.
You know, it is only unfortunate that in Nigeria, we still talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk before things would actually be done. It is unfortunate, and I do not think that should continue.
One of the senators actually pointed out that only about 450 billion naira was released for capital projects in 2017.
Yes.
As against, you know, what was earmarked.
Yes.
Let's even look at the... I'm trying to look for that particular figure right now. Railway, for example, 500 million was released out of a budget of 11 billion naira. So how much, you know, to what extent really, how sincere is government when it comes to budgeting on the one hand and actually getting the job done on the other hand? Because they've been saying, look, lack of funding is really at the root of, you know, the ineffectiveness of all of these budgets, whether it's 2016 or 2017. And 2018 is likely to go the same way.
I mean, we started by saying that there should be a financial year. It should be determined accurately. Everybody should know that, okay, between January, for example, and December, I mean, we would have a financial year in Nigeria. And everybody should know that the president is mandated or expected, constitutionally expected, to lay a budget before the National Assembly, so period, before, you know, the lifespan of the financial year that we are talking about. Now, that is never done in Nigeria. And that goes to the root of the underperformance and underdevelopment that we are witnessing. It's a very simple thing. I pity a lot of ministers, people like Fashola, for example. I pity a lot of them. Because there is no way you can perform when money
is not released.
Simple. So you want to build...
Because in as much as he has the highest budget, it doesn't translate to how much is released for them.
That is it.
So what?
Because there can be performance when there is no funds. And that is exactly why all the construction companies will continue to abandon the roads, you know, all the projects they abandon because they are not funded. You just give them a paltry sum and then you expect them to complete the entire thing. Politicians will go back to the fields, they are campaigning and all that, and nobody is saying to the fact that they are not being funded. So that's exactly why I am actually throwing all these blames at the doorsteps of the National Assembly. It's a very simple thing. Please, can we alter the provisions of our Constitution to ensure that the president is mandated to lay this budget before the National Assembly at least 6 months before the new financial year? And then can we determine, as a matter of law, what constitutes a financial year? So that everybody would know from day one that January to December, that's a financial year. And the president is expected to lay that budget before the National Assembly for robust discussion. I mean, maybe 6 months before the financial year. I think that would make a lot of sense. This situation where the president is at liberty to... In fact, the president can decide to lay the budget before the National Assembly in July 2018. The man is only trying to see what he's saying.
The senators are even saying, look, it's not even about the figure, give 8 trillion to the 2018 budget. Look, give us 2 trillion and achieve maybe 1.8 trillion, and then we can say it's a successful budget.
Yeah, but they are the same set of people that will say that the executive did not pass through due process.
Okay.
Because it is also constitutional that the president must adhere strictly to the provisions of the Constitution, and the Constitution has provided that the president cannot spend a dime except it is appropriated.
It's all right. Well, a lot of Nigerians certainly would look at it from all sides. When you're saying, I must do this, you must have been seen to be doing this in the right way before you come to say, I must do this and all of that.
Absolutely.
When it comes to holding each other to account.
Absolutely.
So all arms of government, one way or the other, Nigerians are watching. But thank you very much, Wale Oshunde, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.